All right, guys. So our final topic here is actually just going to be our spoiler discussion of WandaVision season 1 episode 6, and it was a doozy. This one gave us a lot of confirmation of theories and crushed a lot of theories and just I brought up new theories, honestly. There's like a lot of theories that have already been floating out there that like I didn't necessarily buy into. But there's one now that, like, I'm almost convinced at this point that it is 100% accurate. But I don't know. We'll figure it out. Well, I'm obviously going to bring it up later in the show. But first, let's get everyone's quick thoughts before we go through and kind of break down and analyze it. I got like a whole novel's worth of notes that I took on this thing, man. Like, on my second watch through this morning, I was just like, every time, like, I was like, what's this mean? Right? I got into it, dude. So, what did you guys think of the episode overall? And then we can kind of go through and kind of break this thing down kind of piece by piece and dissect it, if you will. What do you guys think?
I thought it was good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Was it your favorite one since? Because I feel like every week I have to say, like, this was better than the last one. And I think you're doing something right if every week your audience is saying, like, well, that was better than last week's. And you're just constantly outdoing yourself. Good place to be in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I definitely think it was better. Like you said, a lot of questions were answered and theories confirmed, et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, just have to wait and see what happens, I guess.
true. We only got 3 more episodes.
I don't know. This show is just. I keep waiting for like a bad episode or a mediocre episode, and they just keep each episode is just tremendous. And I've just from the very first scene of the very first episode, I've kind of been in love with this show, and it's one of my favorite MCU things that they've done. So yeah, I know this episode was great, and it hit that high bar that all the other episodes have set. So
I'm with you, man. I think my the craziest thing here is that like we have only 3 episodes left. I think everybody thinks that there's some other player involved. Like I think especially after this week's episode, everyone can kind of definitively say Wanda is the cause and in control of pretty much everything. But I know a lot of people and I kind of think too, like once you hear what my theory is, you'll know I think there is another force there, but I don't think it's actually like I think the Agatha Harkness thing, you could pretty much throw that out, in my opinion. I think you could obviously throw out right away that this Pietro is not from the X-Men. Like, it's not Evan Peters' Pietro or Peter from X-Men at all. It's like he's pretty much playing someone who is saying they are MCU Pietro and acknowledge that he looked different. So
yeah, because he did say that.
Yeah, he literally said,
like, I know I look different.
Yeah, but then like, well, before we jump too much into it, let's go through. So we obviously got our. I don't know if they just completely skipped the 90s or if they're considering like the early 2000s and the 90s kind of the same thing, because I will say I got 90s vibes from this intro, but this was obviously like the rip on Malcolm in the Middle, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Which came out in the year 2000. And every time I keep saying that, I keep thinking of the old Conan bit. You guys remember that? In the year 2000.
yeah,
That's all I'm thinking of now. Those are good little bits, man. Conan was good. But yeah, that's what this was supposed to be. And the one thing I thought was interesting about this was that we got Agnes in the title, and Agnes hasn't been in the title. Like the intro to WandaVision itself actually had Agnes in here, and she hasn't been in any of the other ones. That was really the only interesting thing about it. But at the same time, you gotta get confirmation almost later that she isn't anything special. So that's really the only thing I had like a takeaway from this that I thought was interesting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
John, you froze again in a very, very unenthusiastic way. You're just like, God. Oh, man. Okay. But yeah, so I don't know. Did you guys think that like this was odd that she was in here now? Like you think it's just like reading too much into it, or what do you think?
I don't know. Hard to say. But like you said,
I didn't think there was much to it. I thought I'm trying to remember the old black and white openings. I thought she was in one as a character. I thought her and the neighbor that was chainsawing the brick wall. Her. I thought both of them were in one of the black and white openings. Well, maybe I'm not remembering that correct.
I might be mistaken too. I'm not 100. That was the first thing I thought of when I saw it. Is that just stood out to me? I might be wrong. Like you might be right. It's not something I actually went back and researched and watched all of them. I just offhand, it was the first thing that jumped out to me. It's like, huh, she's there now. Interesting.
Yeah.
The other kind of thing to note too is that Pietro or whoever this is does in fact have super speed. So we know, like, or at least is appearing to Wanda as if he has super speed and everyone else around him. So I think no matter how you look at it, since he is like a physical being in the WandaVision world, he does have the super speed. And to note, he does not have like the speed effects that the Fox Pietro had. He has Aaron Taylor Johnson's MCU Quicksilver speed blur that he explicitly had. It wasn't in no way it was how he looked in X-Men. So I think you can throw the whole like X-Men thing out the window at this point. Like personally, you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I would say so.
Like, unfortunately for anybody who wants it, like I think you could throw it
We
away.
talked. Yeah, we talked about this off camera a little bit ago. I just don't know why you bring this actor to play this part if you're not going to somehow try and tie it back to the X franchise, whether it's because there is a multiverse that exists in the Disney universe. When her magic goes out to pull her brother in, she accidentally, unknowingly pulls in the wrong brother, but puts the wrong consciousness in his body. You know, I don't know what but it just seems like such an odd. Even if it's simple as like, oh, we want to have an homage to the Fox films for or this other Quicksilver. It just seems like such a strange choice to do that by casting an actor played this character but played in a completely different universe. I feel like there has to be some rationale to do that beyond a wink and a fuck.
It's a good point.
That's what I thought before. Like I was totally in agreement with that until this episode played out. And I still don't know why you do it. I can't really answer that other than just like to give a nod to it and to make people think that's what's up. Like, which I think is kind of dirty in all honesty. Like, it's kind of a dirty play, just throwing it in there to make people speculate. But it also, I mean, it's also one of those things where like I'm not surprised that the MCU wouldn't go in the route of bringing in those characters because like I said last week or the week before, whatever, it was a failing franchise. Like there was really no reason for them to do it. Like Kevin Feige would want to make his own X-Men. Why would he want to bring in like, despite them all being great actors, their movies at no fault of their own, they went down. They had a steady decline in quality and then people's engagement in them. They didn't like. They went from like 800 million to 500 million. I think Dark Phoenix made like 250 million worldwide. No one cared. There's people out there. The majority of people out there did not know that this dude played Quicksilver in an X-Men movie. You know what I mean? Like, just like no one knows that Darth Maul didn't actually die in Phantom Menace. Like, more people out there had no idea who this was. Like,
I think it's just to add an element of mystery to the show. I mean,
right.
It's so mysterious as it is. And then throwing this on top of it, it's just another like, what? You know, sort of thing.
I think it's just a meta thing that they did. Like, which I appreciate. It's fun. And it's also, though, I really don't understand why he would do it. Like, especially since the only other thing to really note, though, is in the previously on WandaVision thing, they showed Aaron Taylor Johnson's Quicksilver dying. They showed him, which is kind of interesting. Like, why would You think we're gonna get an Aaron Taylor Johnson appearance? Do you think that's actually gonna happen at this point? Because
What
I
if he
think
comes in and he's like, "Wait a minute, this isn't who you think it is," you know? And then kind of like the Spider-Man scene where they're all pointing at each other in the comic. Yeah, just like. But who knows?
I don't know. I think I didn't think we would get one before, but now I think it's more likely that we do. Just because they showed him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I think it was pretty much just to show emphasis to people who I was pretty much just saying like had no idea this was even Quicksilver. Like I don't know. I don't know. I just don't think it's actually Quicksilver. Because then the other thing happens too, where during like when they go and right at this scene where he starts talking to Wanda about the Halloween that they went to on as kids, it's where they show like those dead fish and they knock on the door and you can hear like gunfire and shit in the background, like there's a war going on while they're trick or treating, which just shows that they grew up in a rough place. But she after that scene happens where it shows the flashback, this was a story that Pietro brought up. Wanda says explicitly, like, that's not how I remember it. Like, which I took as like, this dude is not even who he says he is.
That's what I was
This
saying.
is someone impersonating Pietro. Doesn't actually know anything about, unless it's something you read in a report or something that he would know. Like, because later on he tells her like all he remembers being shot in the street. Anybody would be able to know that Quicksilver in the MCU died that way. Like it was already been showcased that like regular humans have like very intimate details as to like Avenger level events. Like like Jimmy Woo and them knew that Wanda almost killed Thanos herself. They knew Captain Marvel almost killed Thanos herself. Like people know a lot of things about this. They would know Quicksilver died in the street. That would be something that anybody could say if they're impersonating somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's mysterious for sure.
Yeah. So then, like, Pietro goes on to, like... I'll wait for that one. But right after, like, during this scene, though, our boy Vision goes to leave, and then Wanda's like, well, no, wait, that's not what you're supposed to do. Like, she explicitly, because Wanda's like, or Vision's like, I'm going to go do this, like, patrol thing. And she says, like, no, that's not what you're supposed to do. Like... But then, like, she stopped saying that so he doesn't, like, look at her all like, what are you talking about? I can do whatever I want. Because, like...
I have free will.
Yeah, it seems like Vision has, like, essentially completely broken out of any sort of control that Wanda had over him. That's what I got from that. Because, like, she was always able, like, she rewound time on him and, like, made him redo the line that one time when he kind of broke out. But I took that as, like, her little, like, setups here are, like, literally no longer working on him. Like... You know what I mean? That's what I took that as, if you guys remember that scene.
Yeah.
Like, because she never had to be, like, so... I don't know. Like, it's the first time we saw something like that happen. So, like, to me, I took it as, like, her hold on him. And then you kind of see, like, later, another theory I had was, like, when you go and they start doing... When he starts going out on his walk, and he gets to, like, the edge where all the people were just, like, standing there, not even moving... I initially thought, like, I think Wanda's power is slipping in general because she's no longer able to hold everybody under control at once.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, so it's either that or back in the, like, episode, what was it, 5 or 6, when she says to him, like, what, do you think that I can actually control everybody here? Like, when they walk their dog and all this stuff? Like, maybe she really has never been able to control everybody. So, like, everyone else is just, like, out on the edge, is just, like, in sleep mode until she activates them, which I think is a little bit more far-fetched. I think her just kind of losing control over it and, like, just not being as strong anymore, which dips into what I think is actually going on here with, which we'll get into later, but I took it as, like, she's losing, like, control a little bit. Like, she's, like, it's not just Vision who is broken free of her. Like, she's just blatantly not able to do it anymore. Which is kind of contradicted by the end of the thing when the whole thing blows up a bit, but I don't really know how else to, like, kind of take that. Like, why else would everybody just be zombies towards the end of the bubble?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You'd think in a lot of ways, like, they're right next to the bubble, so it'd be, like, a pretty strong effect on them. I don't know. You guys,
She's different than her. Everything emanates from her. Then they're on the furthest.
Right.
It's like Brad. You're
Yeah, no, for sure.
Good analogy.
That's why my initial thought was like she's just losing control, because it doesn't make sense if she would just like I get that she would activate people to like do certain things, but like they're human beings and they're just standing still. Like, are they eating? Like, they're going to the bathroom? Like, you know what I mean? They gotta be doing something. Like,
doesn't that not to or
oh, you're good.
doesn't that scene where they're all frozen kind of take place concurrently with Quicksilver questioning her and saying, "How are you doing this? Where are the kids? I assume you left them in bed." Um, he's kind of grilling her why she's doing it, how she's doing it at the same time. And as we've seen in the past, when Wanda gets flustered or her her illusion about this idyllic life that they have created is questioned or broken, she tends to lose some grip on some control. Like the guy that was choking first episode, he starts choking when she gets questioned about where they're from and stuff. So I wonder if that suspension of those or that them being first time had her emotions by being questioned by her brother than it did with any kind of just this is how our powers work.
Right. That's possible, because that was another thing too. Like, I was gonna get into with like it seemed like Pietro was fishing information out of her.
Yeah.
Like, because we he shows and like tells that he is explicitly aware of what's going on. He knows Wanda's behind it. He knows that like literally like there were no kids there, all that stuff. He is like intimately aware of everything that's happening and is like kind of like in on it, if you will. But it's odd that he was like drilling him from her for information for a lot of it.
Yeah.
And it even seemed like in this beginning scene that like he wanted Vision and her to be separated. Like, he was like, "Oh, no, let's let him go do his thing." Like, you know, because that way he could be alone with Wanda and drill her, like, for this information.
If he's from Sword.
I don't know. I think he's Nightmare, honestly. I literally think after you see the, I'm just gonna jump into it now just so I can get it out of the way. That's my new thing that I'm, like, kinda going all in on, that, like, I think Nightmare is behind this. And I think it's, like, all Wanda. Like, Wanda's doing everything, but Nightmare is feeding off of her psychokinetic energy. So, he wants to know, like, the reason behind him disguising himself as Pietro. How he knows, like, to look like that one or why he does, I don't know. I can't really explain that. But it would make sense for Nightmare to wanna know how she's doing it so he could replicate it himself. You know what I mean? Because if he has a very similar power set in some way, then he could do the same thing. Maybe he's just morbidly curious. But when that commercial comes up and it's like, "Yo Magic," and, like, you know, "I just feed off Yo Magic," and all that, implied to me that, like, that's probably exactly what's going on. Like, somebody is, like, literally feeding off of Wanda's magic.
Yeah. That
And,
was
like,
a kind of a weird commercial.
yeah. Well, that's 'cause it showed, like, she gets the thing of Yo Magic, and, like, the kid just withers away and dies. Yeah, that's how I
It's kinda
took
dark.
it. Yeah, I took it as, like, okay, well, Wanda is supposed to be the kid in the situation, and then I'm just placing Nightmare as the shark in that situation because, like, it fits. And they said Nightmare twice in this episode. Just saying. They never really said it before, referred to the way they used the term and the phrase nightmare. They never hadn't really described the things that they were describing in that way, like with that word, ever before this episode. So it was a coincidence that nightmare was used twice in the episode that made me think it was nightmare. But hey, never know. Never know. Could be complete coincidence. But what else? So I had another point with the nightmare thing. I can't remember what it is right now, but I'm just gonna keep going. And then, oh, the other interesting thing is while they were out there on the street, I mean, one, we got the Kick-Ass reference,
Yeah.
so that was good.
That was just a pretty straight up reference.
Yeah, it was just like
Kick-Ass.
Kick-Ass, like, so that we got that. Dude's a dick. I don't think he's a bad guy, by the way. A lot of people think he is like the bad guy. And, like,
No, I don't think he is. I never got that
I
idea.
think
He's a
just
dick.
He's just a dick. Like, I think he's just a regular ass dude who does want to do the right thing, but he's just a dick. You know what I
He
mean?
wants control of the situation.
Yeah, and I like, I don't know. I don't think he's a bad guy. I think it'd be too on the nose for him to be a bad guy anyway. It's like they're painting him out to be too much of a bad guy, which I don't know. We'll probably find out pretty damn soon. Well, we definitely will. There's only 3 episodes left, but come the end of the episode, it's only him, Wanda, and or not Wanda, but Monica and Wu, and whoever his driver was. What else do we got here? So this scene too, like, remember, like, Pietro gets asked the question, and he dodges the question. Like, Wanda gives him a test question. He dodges the question and then never answers the question. Which is why another reason why I think this isn't Pietro at all. You know what I mean? Because, like, why wouldn't he just, if you knew the answer, you just say the answer real quick. Like,
True.
You know what I mean? And it wasn't like a hard question. It was like, what's that kid with the skin thing? Like, oh, Billy. Like, you know, you just know the answer if you knew the answer. And the other interesting thing that happened here on the street was, like, Herb broke character just like Agnes did in the scene before. Or in the episode before, where she's like, do you want me to, like, redo that? Like, you want me to take it from the top? Like, he does the same thing. He's like, Wanda, is everything okay? Is there something you want me to change anything?
Yeah.
And, like, even that,
was
like,
weird.
she had the same reaction that she had to Agnes, where she's just like, no? Like, why are you saying that? Like, 'cause I really think that she truly does get lost in this herself.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
How could you not?
Yeah, like, she forgets the fact that she's, like, making any of this happen. It's almost like one of my theories I had before, where, like, maybe this all started with her doing her own mind control power that she did to the Avengers in Age of Ultron on herself. And then from there, it just evolved and it became real. Like, I don't know. That was one of my theories prior to this. And then the kids end up getting the powers. But here's the thing, man. Here's the Yo Magic scene. Like, this is why I think it was Nightmare, man. I'm just saying. What do you guys think about it being Nightmare?
I'm not familiar enough with the character of Nightmare to really know.
Well, here's another reason too. I just remembered why I thought it was Nightmare is because Nightmare was supposed to be the villain in Doctor Strange 2 when Scott Derrickson was attached to it. So, like, I have a theory that perhaps Scott Derrickson left the project. It was stated they left over creative differences, which could mean absolutely anything. But I'm thinking that, like, he wanted to do something specifically with Doctor Strange and Nightmare and stuff that did not fit in with what Kevin Feige and them wanted to do with, like, WandaVision and Spider-Man, all leading into Doctor Strange and having this big arc. All 3 of these movies. Like, I think he just wanted to do his own thing and not deal with that. So that would, to me, be a pretty common creative difference where it's like, well, that's not what I wanted to do with the character. It's not what I wanted to do with the movie, so I'm going to leave. So then it would make sense that Nightmare would be here. Because if he was supposed to be in Doctor Strange.
What year did The Incredibles come out? Because that'll tell you when this is supposed to be set.
Well, Parent Trap came out in the 90s, and then Incredibles came out in the 2000s.
Okay.
So
maybe it is a tie-in of both decades.
I think it was initially a tie-in of both.
Just to kind of skip over it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a good point. Let me find the correct dates real quick. The Incredibles. February 5th, 2004. Parent.
The Lindsay Lohan one,
Yeah.
I'm imagining.
1998.
Yeah, so I guess it is kind of a...
Yeah, so I think it's kind of a conglomerate of both. But then later in this scene too, like, Pietro goes on and he indicates that he was literally in here. Like, he's here by design of Wanda. It's what she wanted. All he remembered.
Isn't this what you wanted?
Yeah, like, all he heard was dying on the street. Or all he remembered was, like, dying on the street, getting shot for no reason. And then she even gets the flash of, like, dead Pietro, and he has the same bullet holes and everything that Aaron Taylor Johnson had.
Yeah.
The kids got their powers. What else we got? Our boys got our powers too. Like, that happened pretty quick. Do you think they're John? Because I know you were kind of thinking that, like, the thing with her blood is gonna be the mutants. Like, that's what's gonna bring mutants back in. Did you say that's what you thought? Because a lot of people are saying that. I don't really buy it.
I thought that might be her, I thought that might be their way to bring mutants. Everybody in the town basically will end up becoming the mutant population in growing MCU. Just because clearly there's something going on with being in the barrier. It says their DNA is being rewritten from a molecular level. And if that alteration of the DNA leads to mutations, then you can get your mutants come.
Yeah. I think it's a possible angle they could go with it. I think it's like too easy though.
What if
And then you
Rainbow
lose
becomes
a
a
lot of the
mutant?
do what?
What if Rainbow becomes a mutant?
Well, she already has powers in the comics. Her character has powers.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so like I'm thinking more or less like one of two things. She already had her powers and no one knew, so that's why her tests look like that. Two, her powers were dormant and this thing just kind of like accelerated the process. Three, maybe she was given her powers by this, but she's different than everyone else because she's gone in and out of the thing, as opposed to everyone inside of it's just inside of it right now. So who's to say that their cells are being rewritten altogether? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
maybe it's a thing that happens because she went out and then back in, that kind of thing. I don't know. I could see them doing it, but you lose a lot of the if mutants are born here, you lose a lot about what makes mutants, like in a lot of ways. Like I don't know if that's what they would do with it. And then you had this scene come up like this was weird. Them everyone that passed Ellis Avenue. This scene made me think that like Agnes is just a person and like had nothing to do with like she could have just been fibbing them. But like it kind of like John, you said like, but he does the thing to her head that like wakes her up out of a trance. So how would that work if she wasn't actually under a trance? You know what I mean? Like, so like, and I totally get that. So that's why I really do think she's just like a normal person, just stuck here. And then confirmation, of course, that Vision doesn't even know what an Avenger is. So like, this is not Vision. This is some new Vision. Has nothing to do with previous Vision. Right here,
Doesn't remember.
Do what?
Has no memory of like the prior past events or anything like that.
Knows absolutely nothing. And right here, this was the stupidest thing like ever. I gotta say, from someone who works in IT, like she was on the Sword Base's network already with a Sword laptop. There's nothing she needed to hack into. She was
Hacking into
on
the
the network
mainframe.
already. So that was just TV IT right there. Like all you'd have to do is have a password to get into the computer. But she was already into the computer when she says like, I'm hacking the network. You're on the network. You don't need to hack it. Like, stop it with the TV ID. You're talking about CMBRs and all this shit. You can't get something right about hacking. Like, I get it though, because it's just like a simple way to just like let people know, like clicky, clicky,
I'm
clicky.
in.
We're doing stuff. But like, also, since when was she a hacker? She's an astrophysicist. Okay, it's like smart people can hack. I guess that's just what they're implying. Like, I don't know.
Hackertyper.com.
Yeah. And then, but the only thing you really get out of this scene was the cells, right? And then, but then the cataract thing. And I have a theory that this cataract thing obviously has something to do with eyes, right? Cataract, Vision, eyes. Okay. Sword had Vision's corpse. I think Project Cataract might be them trying to build their own vision. Like they used Vision to build their own vision. And then maybe, just maybe, we get a new Ultron out of it, as opposed to a new Vision. Because if you look at the IMDb for WandaVision, James Spader is listed as the voice of Ultron. So just throwing that out there, it's possible. It could be fake though. It could have been something. It looks like it's already been updated to not reflect it too. So maybe someone got onto it and took it off, because I just did a hold on, let me do a full cast and search this again. James B. Spencer. Okay, James Spader is no longer listed on WandaVision IMDb, which is interesting. But I mean, it could have been up there by, I don't know, inaccuracy before. I don't know, or maybe they took it down because they found out it was a spoiler.
True.
But who knows? Something to take note of. But that is something I think that could happen. Is like Cataract is actually like Sword's like own version of Vision they tried to build or spin up, and it could be how we get a new Ultron or something. Okay. What else do we got here? Where am I missing anything that you guys like had like come up around these parts of time? 'Cause I'm trying to go over my notes here.
No,
And this is kind of where I'm at.
not
with
for
it.
me at least.
Good. Yeah, so Agnes seems, I think, just like a regular person at this point, 100%. Monica referred to her aerospace engineer fella as a guy. So we know that presumably, because she says my guy. So I'm going to go on a limb and say she literally meant that as like he is a guy.
Yeah,
Because a lot of people like said that if you were to change back when she first spoke about the aerospace engineer in Spanish, it used the female pronunciation for the line. I think it was probably just because a female said it, and that's how it got interpreted, like by the dialogue, I guess, is why it came off that way. Because it was obviously wrong, but
people looking at like, I mean,
I know that's a stretch. People go deep with this shit.
it's like what was the thing last week where the descriptive text said something like
Yeah.
the X-Men from the X-Men movie franchise. I mean, I'm sorry, but at some point, you know, they're not. At some point, they farm out this stuff to other parties because it's simply simple translation. So, you know, lost in translation takes or lost in interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
And like, I guess maybe they would let some like major spoilers slip in the descriptive text or in the Portuguese language adaptation of the dialogue, but I just doubt it. And so I don't think I think people that are mining it for that sort of thing are missing something. I think are missing something in about the show. Like I don't think you're gonna find your answer.
Oh, I know. I love that people go out of their way to actually like do that though. They watch it and they're like, okay, now let's watch it with the descriptive text on. Okay, now let's watch it with like Spanish subtitles and the French subtitles. And like they just sit there and they just watch it, see if anything. It's like, man,
Yeah.
I wish I had that kind of time and patience just to sit there and maybe get information out of something that may or may not be correct and will inevitably not matter in any way, shape, or form because you're gonna watch the show and you're gonna get the answer anyway. Just relax, like just chill out. But I think it's funny. But in this scene too, where Pietro starts drilling her for these like information, he brings up the line, Rick, I think you said too about the kids. Like he brings up like, so where were you hiding the kids? Like, you know what I mean? Or did John? One of you said it
John, I
already,
think,
yeah. But it was like, so where were you hiding the kids? And like he wasn't like turned off about it. Like, you know what I mean? He was just, he's completely on board with it. He says like that he didn't think it was wrong and he's impressed by like her ability to even do this. Which again, I think is kind of telling to where it doesn't just seem. I know we didn't really know the character of Pietro that much, but like, why would some speedster be impressed with that, with this whole thing? Like, I think the only person that would be impressed with this is someone who has similar abilities as she does.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Not someone who has no idea about like what it's like to be anything like Wanda is. You know what I mean? I don't know.
So I think if this is Pietro or if this is her brother, that it could be a brotherly, hey, you know, wow, I didn't know you had that kind of power. I'm impressed type brother.
Possible.
That you know,
No, I'm with you.
if it ends up being Pietro, it'll work. It's not like that scene won't work for me anymore.
I agree.
yeah.
I just think it's kind of odd.
It is a little odd.
The whole thing's odd.
Which is true too.
A sibling kind of pride that he's expressing. See,
Right. Yeah, but then we got then Billy got his powers shortly after this. And then that's pretty much the big thing. And then like once everybody gets into like once all this happened and Vision is dying, like outside, we're essentially sitting here watching Vision die for a third time. So we got that going on. So this guy obviously came out and proved that he cannot exist outside of this. Like he has to be in this hex. The only thing
I don't know.
you're froze again, by the way.
It wasn't that he couldn't exist. It was that he was literally being
He was being ripped apart.
pulled back into. He was being pulled back into the hex.
Yeah, but not in just like a nice way. Like,
No, and I'm not saying like maybe I'm splitting hairs. It wasn't like he walked outside of the hex and completely turned off and died. He was still operational and living outside
The
of
hex was just
the
pulling
hex.
him back.
The hex was pulling, yeah, like ripping him apart to get him. So I understand what you're saying about he can't live outside of it. He just, I would just counter that he can live outside for long because it'll rip him apart.
Yeah.
yeah, but needless to say, he can't live outside of it. At least that's what's gonna happen. But what was weird, which take this with however you want, that Infinity Stone is there. At least what looks like an Infinity Stone is there on his head.
Yeah.
Take that with a grain of salt. Like, because I mean, if that thing was just like a, but I mean, no matter was changed. That's the thing that's weird though. Monica's clothes got changed, and they didn't change back or started to get ripped back into the thing when it left. She was changing everything on a molecular level when it goes in. So
Yeah.
like,
That's like when you saw the beekeeper guy. He goes in like a hazmat suit and comes out as a beekeeper because it makes sense for that time period.
exactly. And then like when Monica leaves, her clothes stayed the same. So
Yeah.
like they didn't start getting ripped apart back into the hex like Vision did.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Just I don't know. I don't know. I don't think the Infinity Stone's there, but the dude can't live outside the hex, that's for sure. So yeah, we're obviously gonna have to watch Vision die again at the end of this, I'm pretty sure. So
Probably.
but then the other thing too, like, is like the only thing that contradicts kind of my theory about Wanda not having enough like her powers being weakened, right, or something, and she's not able to control like everybody on the outskirts of the town anymore, like maybe because something's draining her energy or whatnot. The end of the show kind of throws a wrench in that but it could have just been like a adrenaline type rush, because she just does this thing and the hex expands drastically, which is
Yeah.
not really the sign of somebody who is losing their power.
No, if anything, gaining.
Yeah, but this was
More.
also like a holy shit, like Vision's about to die. I need to save something. I need to do something right now, and just like adrenaline kicks in, and like boom, now we have a bigger hex, and he's in it, and blah blah. But then the only thing to really note from here, though, is that Darcy gets sucked in, and they don't show what she turns into.
I liked the whole like fuck.
Yeah. I think that we're going to see her, and since we're going to be in the 2010s now, going into it, either 2000s or 2010s, she will probably end up wearing this outfit right here. You ready? This is what we're going to get. This is her character when she goes back in.
Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, they got to. How could they not, right? I never watched the show, so like anybody could do it, but like it has to be this, right? When was the release date for Two Broke Girls?
2011.
Did it say it?
Yeah, Two Broke Girls premiered
Okay.
in September 2011.
Well, there we go. That's what I think is going to happen. They're going to the 2010s. They're going to do the thing. Boom. She's going to be a waitress or something. And there we go. There we go. We're going to go from there.
Yeah.
That's what I think is going to happen. So I don't know. And we're obviously going to meet this dude, whoever this aerospace engineer is. Oh, yeah. That was one thing I did forget to go over. The aerospace engineer has got to be somebody important, I think, at this point.
They're building it up to be.
Yeah. They've already literally teased him for 2 episodes now, like back to back. If it was going to be like a nothing thing, and not like some sort of major character, we wouldn't have heard this episode wouldn't happen. Like we would have just never heard about him again, and they would have moved on. Kind of like the Jimmy Woo being there for someone in witness protection. Haven't heard about it since. That was just a plot device. It seems like it was just a plot device to get the FBI agent of Jimmy Woo at the scene. Like I think that's literally all it was.
Yeah.
So I still think I told John this off camera. I think it could be Rocket Raccoon. I don't know why he would be referred to explicitly as an aerospace engineer, but he's the only person in the MCU right now who we know can build spaceships and stuff like that, and who would be up for building something to go on like a suicide mission. That has Rocket Raccoon written all
That's
over
like
it.
the last person I would have thought. But
Well, I mean, who else would it be? Like, seriously, think about who else it's gonna be. Because if it's not someone new, I mean, the only other people I got is like Hank Pym, but
that's what I was thinking.
he's not explicitly an aerospace engineer though, and that's what's the most intriguing part. Is they said like they specifically said they wrote it in the script for Monica to say aerospace engineer who would be up for this.
Yeah.
Could be something just to throw you off the scent so you don't know who it is or what. Because like
I
realistically,
think it's Thor.
Yeah.
Kidding.
True. No, but that fits Reed Richards more than anybody. But then they've gone out and said that, like, or the showrunner said that the Fantastic Four have like nothing to do with this. But like, that's also what somebody would say when the Fantastic Four do have something to do with it.
We talked about that off stream. That's such a like low key, basic way to bring in a major character. Hey, first time Mr. Fantastic shows up, he builds Monica a car. Okay, cool.
Yeah, but you know how cool it would
The
be.
guy who's responsible
For building the ultimate nullifier shows up in the MCU with a tricked out van. Like, okay, cool.
But you still know how cool it'd be for like you see some feet walking into frame and Monica's like, "Here's my guy," and then like she turns around, shakes his hand, and you just see the shot of the handshake, and then the camera pans up, and he's like, "Hey, Reed Richards,"
Yeah, okay.
and it's John Krasinski.
Okay, it would be cool,
It'd be
but
great.
still, it's terribly lame in the scheme. Like that's such an undersell for such a major character.
I'll
Like,
counteract with this: it's better than any of the Fantastic Four movies you've already gotten.
Yeah.
okay, but instead of that's like instead of getting on your left, at the culmination of or at the big battle in Endgame, instead we got like right before they snap, Falcon turns around and hand them the last piece that makes the nanotech love. He's like, "Oh wait, Tony, you forgot your battery. Oh, and we're back." I'm just saying,
I'm with you.
it's cool. Just it's smaller way to bring in such a.
Well, no.
I would put
To that
I'll put
point, I'm with you on that. I don't think it's Mr. Fantastic, but to your point, I'm saying the exact same thing about mutants. You're going to introduce mutants on WandaVision? Why?
Yeah.
because it's Disney's first.
Doesn't matter. Mutants are
It's their first
lazy.
foray into this medium or this type of storytelling, and it's also they're planting their flag in the streaming wars. And what better way to plant your flag in the streaming wars by saying we're bringing you mutants?
Then they would just have an X-Men show. They wouldn't introduce it in WandaVision.
Maybe.
I don't see the correlation to that. Like, I get what you're saying, but like people aren't watching the show because they think mutants are gonna be like, you know what I mean? It's like it's I just don't think if you like they deserve their own thing, not to be. We got 3 episodes left. They're just gonna breeze by this mutant thing then. Like if it's actually happening, it's just like there's only an hour and a half.
This is laying the groundwork for the mutants to be fully integrated into the MCU. I'm not saying they're going to have mutants at the end of it and just go forward like mutants being nothing, like they're just established characters going on. I'm saying like the culmination of this, the final episode ends with somebody saying something like it appears like your genes have mutated or something like that, and then get the beginning of the introduction of actual mutants and I'm not even saying that that's going to happen. I'm just like they made a very specific point of saying that her cells have been changed on a molecular level because of being inside the hex. And so I feel like that with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch's history of with mutant and they're bringing the actor in from the X-Men. I feel like that isn't all just random. I think they're setting up something. I don't know if it's mutants. It could not be. I would put mutants higher on my probability.
Yeah.
I mean, I was on that camp for a while because it made sense because of Wanda being a mutant. Like, if you're gonna do it in any way, do it. I just think it doesn't do the mutants any justice if they just exist as a result of an Avenger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Charles Xavier, Magneto, all these people lose their backstories, lose all the character development that they have that actually defines who their characters are. Just nope, you were in Westview, and Wanda did her thing there, and now you're one of the most powerful beings in the universe. How do you feel? Like it's just kind of dumb. Like when you actually start to think about it. Like I get it. It's a very easy, kind of lazy way to bring mutants in my opinion, even though it fits and it's a possible thing. I just feel like you lose a lot. Like Magneto being, and like they can't really do the whole Holocaust concentration camp thing for Magneto anymore because he'd be like 90 some odd years old, but like that's
the other-
powerful. Like that's a big deal. Like that's what defines who that character is. And him being born of like WandaVision doesn't have the same effect, in my opinion. Like, you know, you're frozen again.
You frozen.
You're frozen.
Let it go.
But I could totally see it happening. Like I could totally see it happening. That's what I initially thought from like the start was like when we see Pietro come in and he's that guy, and I'm like, okay, maybe it's just. And I'm not saying X-Men are off the table. They're very much on the table, just like Mephisto's still on the table. It's just if I had to choose between Mephisto and Nightmare, I'm going Nightmare right now. That's what seems the most logical to me. If I had to go mutants, no mutants, I'm going no mutants. Like I would go Reed Richards before mutants personally. Like Reed Richards being the aerospace engineer, I could see that far before I see mutants are here now. I don't know why. It just seems too easy, and you lose too much with bringing the mutants in right now. I don't know. I would almost rather at this point just so people would shut up about the mutants in the MCU that they just make them be in their own goddamn universe. Like you'll never see it, guys. Like just ever. Like it's over. Done. Like I'm getting to that point. I don't know, but that'll never happen. There's too much money to be made.
Yeah.
There's just too much.
I mean,
I
you're
mean,
wrong.
Yeah. I put money on the fact that we're going to get mutants in the MCU.
Oh yeah, it's 100%.
I'll take whatever bet that is.
We already technically are because Deadpool's already essentially been confirmed to be a part of the MCU. So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, guys, you got anything else you want to add? 'Cause that pretty much covers like we only got 3 episodes left.
It'll be interesting to see what happens in these 3 episodes and what
I
they come
know.
up with because that's a lot of like stuff to follow up on in
I
3
know.
episodes.
That's the thing. Like, there's a lot of low hanging fruit still here, and like that's the only
Grab
other
that
thing.
fruit.
Well, yeah, that's the only other thing that's kind of odd about again there being a Mephisto or Nightmare level character or even mutants kind of thing. Like, there's only 3 episodes. That's a lot of information that you'd have to like squeeze in here. Like, no matter how you look at it. Like, now you got to explain this, because you got to imagine if it's Nightmare or Mephisto, we're gonna have a whole episode dedicated to okay, oh, you have to tell me who this character is
Yeah,
and why they're doing it. What were their motivations?
exactly.
So then you only have like 2 episodes left if there's 1 episode dedicated to explaining who, what, when, where, and why of X villain, you know? So,
Yeah.
I don't know. You guys think there is a third party like a Nightmare or Mephisto though?
No, I would say so. Now that you talked about it and put the idea in my head, it's kind of sprouted a seed and see what that seed grows into. Yeah, I mean, that's like the best way to put it.
See what that seed grows into.
Yeah, there's a sprout.
Some sprouts. All right. No, I'm
I don't think you were going to end up with it just being as simple as Wanda went crazy and is doing these. Yeah, is the villain of this story. I think there's going to be some twist. I just she's too established within the MCU with having lost Cap and Iron Man. Those 2 characters in the MCU. I don't think they're ready to write another character out of and especially with the idea that Vision may not long for this world either. I don't think that we're going to have I don't think this is her heel turn for the MCU.
I feel like she's already too far gone.
Yeah.
Like
Not if
honestly,
being manipulated by outside force.
it would have to be proven that she literally had nothing to do with it, though, and it's already been disproven that she's not in control. She is in control. She expanded the hex.
Yeah. She did.
Like,
if she's doing it because she's been manipulated or she has an outside presence influencing her, I think that you can still
he went out there and held turned the guns onto the sword director, said, "Get off my lawn." Like there's a lot of things
Get
that
off
were
my lawn.
100% Wanda. Like
Not
even if she's
necessarily.
being influenced.
How many times have we seen somebody that mind controls somebody or somebody to do something that they don't want to do or control their actions? So
Well, that's the thing. It would have to be definitively proven that they were under zero it was not her at all. Because if she was cognizant of any of it at any point in time, which I feel like has been proven that she is complicit in these actions. In multiple occasions, I think they've shown that like Wanda is choosing to do this stuff from time to time. Like, because I think it maybe started with her, like kind of like Vision said, maybe it was just all internal at one point in time, and then it became like it was all subconscious, and then it somehow became real. Like possibly, maybe that was also being influenced. But
what if somebody set her up to create this environment and her reactions that you're saying or her in control or whatever what if that's just her protecting her world, her environment, which she believes is her, that she doesn't know she's hurting these. If she honestly doesn't know she's hurting these, and she believes that this is her reality, regardless of if she made it up or if somebody, forced her to make it up, if she believes this is her reality and she doesn't know that she's hurting these, then those actions could just be, somebody protecting their world. It could be, her fighting for good.
I don't know. I just feel like it's too hard to. I don't know.
Just gonna have to wait and see.
At the end of this, does she get thrown in prison? Does she get killed?
Probably gets killed.
That's what I was thinking.
The Avengers sent Hulk out the space, man. There's like he's too dangerous. Like
In
yeah,
the comics,
yeah, in
in
the
the
comics.
MCU, you haven't seen that kind of.
I think that's like the kind of thing that's going to happen. The other thing that is interesting here, and I know that because a lot of people have been saying this, because like, why haven't Sword called another freaking Avenger? This is obviously an Avengers level threat at this point. You know what I mean? But then, like, my argument with that is like, this is the reason shared universes suck because everybody says that. Like, well, where was Superman when Batman was fighting this person? Like, it's like the story is this. Like, it's not. But I totally
he
get
was busy.
Yeah, like I totally get the whole like. Shouldn't they at least like maybe have someone try to reach out to someone? Like we've put a word out to X and so, waiting to hear back from them. Like because like at no point you've had any indication.
Sword being so arrogant that just look at the way the one guy's running this investigation. I could see him being so arrogant. He's like, I'm not calling another Avenger. They'll just make it worse. They'll try and take over their own town. Like, there's
true.
The arrogance of humanity in some cases is kind of overwhelming. So I could definitely see that being the case of why an Avenger hasn't been called in. As far as an Avenger finding out, yeah, this is going on, but who's to say there aren't 5 other issues globally and 10 other issues interstellar that are going are requiring Vision for their attention.
None of them tried to contact Wanda though. This was like
Help out.
Just to see how she was doing after being dusted and coming back, and there being no Vision. Like no one reached out. I find that
no, she was reached out. She was at Tony's funeral. She stood there with Bucky and Falcon. So she's had social interactions with other people. At some point, the implication so far is that she was in a severe state of depression, loneliness, and this took place. It doesn't mean that she didn't have any social interactions with other people. She maybe just reached a breaking point, and we also don't know how long this has been going on. I mean, timeline-wise, this could be a matter of days, all not weeks, not months that this town has been taken over. So I think it's well within the bounds of reason that other Avengers have not taken note of it or noticed missing.
That's true. Yeah. Do you think we're gonna see another Avenger pop up in here?
Maybe.
I
Hard to
think
say.
so. I mean, these stories are so interconnected. The movies, rarely do you go through an entire movie without some sort of other person popping up. So I think we'll see some.
I think Hawkeye might show up because like he was the closest one to her, like
Yeah.
in
He's gonna shoot
Ultron
an arrow
and
right
at the
through her head.
funeral. You know, like it was Hawkeye. You know, so I
And he's
think
gonna
that could
kill her.
happen. No, well, in the comics, she kills him. So that's another reason why Hawkeye could show up.
Well,
Not to die, but because like in that arc, in that this is loosely based off of in the comics, he gets killed by her. So it's plausible that he would show back up, given the history they have in the MCU. So, well, let's wrap it. We've been going on for 55 minutes on this, so we're gonna wrap this up, guys.